Well, good evening, everybody. How you doing? It's me, Mitch. This is my back. And this is the 800-pound monkey in the room. Now, there's something you don't see every day. Hi, good to see you. Good evening. Good evening. Wow. I could say I asked for it with that video that I put out today. I don't know whether I asked for it, but I sure got it. Oh my God. I haven't had, I kind of knew it would, but I haven't had a video take off out of the gate and run like that one in 3-4 months. It was crazy, and I knew that the reason it would be so popular was it just brings up all the controversy about how healthy our lifestyle is, and just gives the other guys an excuse to chime in and mouth off. And I had not as much of that as I thought, but there was quite a bit of it today. And were those things, I don't know whether I've matured into this YouTube thing or just finally come to terms with it, but none of it bothered me. I was kind of entertained by it, and I tried to answer these people politely without having to write a book. But what absolutely amazed me was the lack of knowledge out there. How many people, the majority of people, I think, have actually bought into the standard talking points and the conventional wisdom of healthy fruits and vegetables and healthy whole grains and cholesterol and all that. And I guess my video kind of hit all of those hot buttons. So it was interesting. But it was more interesting for me when I got up this morning. I mean, this is Tuesday. It's basically the first business day of the year. I didn't expect anything to be up on the VA website yet, but I thought, well, let me take a look. And sure enough, there were all my lab results from late last week. Because I have my appointment on the 11th for my physical, and I always like to make sure that when I walk into that physical, I've got the paper with the lab results in my hand. The famous paper right here. And that way my doctor knows I've got, there's going to be no surprises for me. And we've been doing that for years and years and years, and we've got a great understanding, she and I. I talk, she listens. Pretty much how it goes. Kind of like, I mean, that's kind of like the way I am. If you've ever seen any of the times that I've been interviewed here on YouTube, I talk and they listen. Maybe I overdo it. I don't know. Speaking of interviews, I want to make a little announcement. A fellow named Larry, he's got a YouTube channel called The Everyday Carnivore. And I don't know if any of you've heard of him. He's got a decent amount of followers. He's got, I don't know, 6,000 or 7,000 followers. So I'm sure somebody's heard of him. Well, he invited me on for an interview, and it's going to be tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'm going to simultaneously stream it on my channel as well. I'm sure, I mean, if all the buttons I push work correctly, you'll find it, you'll be able to find it. You'll get notified of it as a video on my channel, but it's going to be my interview with him, and it's going to be going out on his channel as well. And I think the way those things work is all the chats just get all thrown into one big chat. So I don't know if you'll see the people that are chatting on his channel, or he'll see, or his people will see you. I don't know. I did one of those before. The one, when was it? God, it was a long time ago. And I don't remember exactly how it worked. But anyway, tomorrow night, 7 p.m., look out for the thumbnail. And if you'd like, and there's going to be another chance for me to talk and not let the interviewer get a word in edgewise. I did an off live interview with Pete on his new channel, the Primal Timeline. Pete's in Australia. He does great. I mean, he's just right out of the gate. He's got almost a couple thousand views on his first video, which is great. And he's building subscribers. And I think that I think he's going to do real well. I think he's going to do real well. I think he's going to maybe be a little overwhelmed at first, like I was, but he's got a good story to tell, and he's a talented editor and makes well done, just well done from a technical standpoint, well done videos. And I really enjoyed being on his first video with him. So the Primal Timeline, check him out. I think you'll enjoy it. He's put out a couple of shorts, and I just saw his latest one just a few minutes before this started. Let me see. I've got this disclaimer that I always do right off the bat, and that is, and I try to do it often, and I did it especially in the video that I put out there today, but I'm not a doctor. I don't give medical advice. Basically, I give my opinion. And it's up to you to decide how much my opinion is really worth, how valid it is. I can't give medical advice. I wouldn't want to, even if I was a doctor. How could you give medical advice to somebody you haven't personally seen, have a medical history, personally examined, personally seen all their tests? It would be irresponsible to give anything more than maybe cursory nutrition advice to somebody like that. And not being a doctor, I don't want to do it. And especially after that video today, I want to make sure that nobody misheard me making the point that, well, this is what happened to me, so if you do it, it'll happen to you. No, I didn't say that. Now, it took me a lifetime to learn everything I've learned about nutrition, about dieting. I jumped on the low-carb bandwagon way back in the early days of Atkins and have been trying to refine that ever since. And I try to give you the benefit of some of the things that I learned, again, in the form of insights and opinions. But please, these are decisions you have to make. You have to make for yourself. I try to go with what makes common sense and what doesn't. And I hope you get that feeling from me when you listen to some of the things I say. And I know that I may not be 100% right on everything, but if I can give you some ideas and some concepts to think about, then I think that I'm doing some good here. So let's start saying hello to some of the people. I'll go way back into the chat here, and I see my buddy Jody. Drone Shots is here. How you doing, Jody? Good to see you. And E.T., catching up on your videos. Most excellent viewing, he says. Love the test results one today. Well, thank you. Thank you. Linda Price says hello. Coco. Hi, Mitch. Happy New Year. And Happy New Year to everybody. And aren't you glad the holidays are done? I don't know about you. I am tickled to death that the holidays are done. Here we have Lori, Carnivore Cheer. A few minutes. You're right on time, Lori. Mama Cracker's here. Good evening. And King Stone is here. How are you, my friend? And Richard Williams, good evening from Copper Hill. Make this a carnivore year by helping someone start on a carnivore lifestyle. If they listen to you, that's a great idea. Absolutely. And hi, Victory. How you doing? Good to see you. Matt Vincent, his first live stream. Well, welcome. Welcome. Good to see you. Glad you're here. And Julia, how are you? How are you? Hi, Mitch. Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. Chris Lazat, good evening. From icy cold Maine, Mitch. Yeah, welcome to icy cold Florida. Of course, you guys laugh at me when I say it's cold down here, you know. But you live in Florida for over 50 years and see if certain changes don't happen to your body. I know we get all the tourists, we call them snowbirds. They come down here in the wintertime. The rest of us are freezing our butts off. These guys are running around in T-shirts and Bermuda shorts and going into a 68-degree ocean. Oh, not me. Not me. Well, welcome, Chris. Good to see you. And Derek, the D. What kind of desk do you have, he says. Wow, it's a huge, big rosewood thing, and it's made by Steel Chase. And I've taken, this desk is in like 10 different pieces and wraps completely around me. I've had this desk. It goes way this way and way back that way and weighs 1,000,000 pounds. I've moved it around and it came from my office in my old computer company. And it was my desk, and I've moved many times, but somehow I've managed to haul this thing with me. And it's very convenient. It's very convenient. Maybe when I die, I'll have them bury me in the drawer or something like that. All right. Where were we? Banis Cat says, hello. And Derek says he's been looking for a desk like that. Derek, 35 years ago, I paid $10,000 for this desk. So I imagine an equivalent desk today would be be new car prices kind of desk. Maybe that's one of the reasons I still keep moving it around. Shedley81, it's time to go with Captain Mitch. Thank you. I don't know if I'm a captain quite yet. James O'Neill, as always, heading to bed. Yeah, James, we always kind of catch you on the way out. Well, good to see you. Good to see you on day 52. Feeling amazing. Good to hear that. Good to hear that. And Carnivore Nana, a new member of the private community, and welcome. Welcome. I hope to see you Thursday night. We've got a few people signed up this week, which is nice. Hey, Mitch, I started a Facebook Messenger group with 10 people and sharing you tonight. Oh, my God, you mean I'm actually out on Facebook as well? Wow, that's great. That's great. Thank you. Maybe I'll be a star by tomorrow. Although based on the response I got today, I don't know if being a star is all it's cracked up to be. And Mac is here. How you doing, my friend? Good to see you. Pat Ramirez is in the house. William McCartney. Thank you. Josephine C is here. Oh my God, great timing. Hi, Mitch, everyone. Hope all is well. Good to see you. Sandra, how you doing? Day 3 of the Carnivore Challenge, learning to live 200 push-ups per day. Oh man, I've settled into every 2 or 3 days I do a routine. Takes me less than a half hour. I managed to do 100 push-ups and 100 squats and some exercises on that new gym thing that I bought. And I'm going to film a whole workout routine of mine one day so you can see how an old fart does it. Not that you need to try to keep up with me, because there's tons of people, believe me, I can't keep up with myself. My 800-pound monkey would less if you fed him. You know, the good news about a digital monkey is that you don't have to feed him anything. He just sits there. He's very, very content, and it's actually really stress relieving to sit and watch him just go through his things. He'll stare at you, then he'll look away. And he was my sidekick and kind of mascot on my drone channel, and his name was Spanky. Spank. I don't bring him out here too often, but I really do like that thing. It's a video loop that runs about 1.5 minutes and then just starts over again. Matt Hawkins. Is ham a good meat to eat? Ham is okay. I don't really have an opinion, except that most of the time when you buy one of these pre-cooked hams, it's loaded with sugar and glazed with things like that. So I really couldn't tell you. I don't eat it. I think fattier cuts of pork might be a better choice. But yeah, I mean, if you want some variety, it's not going to hurt you as long as it doesn't have a lot of carbs. Make sure you look at the label. Make sure it doesn't have a lot of carbs. Let's see, who haven't I said hello to? King Stone. Really hard to convince close family about the importance of it. Yes, yes it is. Yes, it is. They're going to think you're crazy because everything they hear from every direction and everybody in authority and every government, doctor, and every TV commercial is telling them they need to take their statins and they need to eat their healthy fruits and vegetables and whole grains, and meat is going to give you cancer. And that just, bullshit repeated enough times becomes the truth, unfortunately. And for some people, think about it. If you're under 50, if you're under 50 years old, this may be the only message you've ever heard in your life. And you may have been weaned on toaster pastries and ice cream and treats. I mean, there was no better way to get a kid to stop screaming than to shove some sugar in his face. Mark C. says, hey, folks, how you doing? And less grumpy old Ben. Hey, glad you're less grumpy these days. Good morning from the Philippines. Hey, how you doing? How you doing? Late to the show, just finished watching 2-hour Bart K interview. Holy mackerel. I need some inspiration to get back on track after my holiday. That's another thing, unfortunately. That holiday was probably not as kind as it could be to people, and it's hard to fight it. It's hard to fight it. For me, I didn't go anywhere. I didn't do anything. I didn't immerse myself in the temptations of parties and drinking and people stuffing their face. I find the easiest way to avoid triggers is avoid triggers. Let's see, who haven't I said? Minky, did I say hi to you? No, I don't think so. Happy 2024 to you, Carnivore Girl for Life. Hello from the PNW. What is the PNW? I should know this. Sorry. See, I don't know everything. Wendy Began from Alberta, Canada. How you doing? I bet you it's a little chilly up there. Naomi Jones, how you doing? Hello to you. Tony Morris, Happy New Year to you too. From Maryland, Westminster, Maryland. It's 42 in Destin. Yeah, you're up there in the Panhandle. That's the frozen north. It's in the 50s here already. I think it's going down to 54 or something tonight, maybe closer to 50. We have the benefit, if there's an easterly breeze blowing, it's blowing in off the ocean, and the ocean water, of course, is warmer, so it might get really cold inland, and we manage to stay a little warmer. And this is Jim Pollock. Happy New Year. Wishing you good health and happiness. You're an inspiration to the proper human diet. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we have Fandos Pasos. Hello from Sao Paulo, Brazil. How do you say good day? Bom dia. Bom dia. I think that's good day in Portuguese. That's about the limit of my Portuguese. And D.B. Cooper. You remember that? You remember D.B. Cooper? He's the guy who jumped out of that airplane with all the money. Hello, all fat fighters. And we have Bart Simpson. Bart Simpson. We have a star in the house, man. Bart Simpson's here. Bart Simpson uttered one of my favorite lines ever on a TV show. And he was laying down in bed, and I think I have a video clip of this, and one of these days I'm going to find an excuse to throw it into one of my videos. And he's lying in bed, and he looks up and he says, "Is everybody in the world stupid except me?" First time I heard that, I fell off the couch. I was laughing so hard. Welcome, Bart. Good to see you. Senator, no, these push-ups are for bench or tabletop or wall. I'm a dead set beginner, but with some sore shoulders and arms. Hey, good for you. Good for you. I won't tell. I won't tell anybody. As far as we're all concerned, you're doing 200 push-ups a day. Happy New Year from Maryland. Olabi Olabi. Wow. There's a name you don't see every day. And Zebinod Smith is here. How you doing? Angry that GPT keeps telling me to eat healthy whole grains. Oh, if I got a deal from one of the guys sent me this. I think I'll have to look at it again. I'm going to make a video on it. He actually had a conversation with Meta, which is Facebook, with their latest chat, artificial intelligence engine. And he's basically found the name of a study that shows pretty definitively that the dietary stuff is all bullshit. And he basically wanted this artificial intelligence to send him a copy of the study. And it's priceless, the arguing back and forth with this artificial intelligence, trying to spin everything in the direction of, well, that's misinformation, and I can't give you anything that's harmful, and blah, blah, blah. And it is absolutely telling. And I'm going to make a video about it, so I won't spoil the plot, but it was scary, very scary and very concerning if that's the direction that this country's going in. It really is. It really is. John Decker's here. Dozier, sorry, didn't look fast enough. Love your videos, Mitch. After an eye mini stroke scared me, I'm back on strict carnivore. Looking forward to being fully fat adapted. You're on day 9. Good. Keep it up. Keep it up. Good for you. Florida. I need a digital monkey to ride my shopping cart to scream at me when I pick up the wrong. Now there's a product idea for you. Jojo. Yeah, everyone I know tells me I'm nuts for eating carnivore. They look at me. Yeah, you can't expect them to take you seriously. Yeah, whole grains equals gluten, but even more than that, there are other lectins, there are anti-nutrients, and it's all sugar. It's everything that kills you in one convenient package. PAC Northwest, Shedley, 81, how are you? Oh, Pacific Northwest, PCNW, that's what it was. Okay. Well, don't I feel stupid? And Max says, my girlfriend's niece's kids live on pasta, M&Ms, and goldfish crackers. Well, at least they're getting 3 of the 4 basic food groups, And I think we are down to the bottom of the chat, I think. Let me look at this chat. Yeah, we are. How about that? Good deal. CC, California. Good to see you. Binky, we got you. I wouldn't trust AI. Yeah, I don't trust it as far as I can throw Zuckerberg. Hello from Ozark, Arkansas. Harmon, 442. Good to see you. Wendy, Megan. I spent 3 weeks in December with my son and his family. This 65-year-old Nana outpaced them. They call me Super Nana. Yeah. Were you able to make any headway with them on their diet? Probably not. Plants are inefficient and inflammatory. Yeah, I don't even like the way they taste. Okay, so that's the bottom of it. That's the bottom of the chat. Herbalina, let the young men know in your families. Mitch's testosterone through the roof. Yeah, that's another thing. That whole, I have to tell you the story about how I came last year to get my testosterone test, because they don't routinely do those at the VA. Before it gets too cold. This is my one, I've gotten the habit now, in a short period of time, of liking to have a cup of decaf when I do these live streams. So it is decaf. I don't know if there's, might be a little caffeine in it. But after these live streams are over, I usually sit and watch the whole thing anyway. So I'm usually up till midnight on these nights. So after that, I really get to sleep easily. I have no trouble sleeping. I fall asleep like a baby every night. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night. Sometimes I don't. Part of that depends on how much water I've had or other things I've had to drink right before I went to bed. So I try not to. Cranky Carnivore Cutlers here. How you doing? I've saved some eye-opening chats. Yeah, that was you that sent me that. That's right. Yeah. He sent me this chat with the AI. Well, if you got another one, send it to me because I am going to make, I told you I was going to make a video with those because they are so eye-opening. I don't know if it's more frustrating arguing with that thing or arguing with a 3-year-old. And the way they phrase things is so condescending and patronizing. It's crazy. Oh yeah. So at any rate, back to the testosterone. You're probably aware. Oh, let me say this one thing. And let me make sure I get through everything I want to say. I already told you my video brought out all the lunatics today. You know, I got to tell you, for any of you that leave comments on anybody's video, especially somebody that doesn't know you, don't start out with the word dude. When you start a comment with the word dude and then a comma, you've lost 90% of your credibility, especially with somebody older. So I got a few of those dude comments today. And they went something like, dude, you're killing yourself. Everybody knows that with your high cholesterol, you're going to die shortly. And on they went. Not saying in my opinion or anything. They portrayed themselves as the authority. I had 10 people just short of demanding that I get a CAC, a coronary artery calcium scan. Or else how can I live another day without knowing whether I have calcium in my arteries? Now that's maybe a controversial subject to a lot of people, but I think that's an individual choice. I think when you're grown up and you have some critical thinking and you know how you react to stress and how you react to worrying about the unknown, there are things in this world that if the situation and all the other evidence warrants it, you're better off sometimes just not knowing. Because once you know something like that, you can't unknow it. And you can spend the rest of your life on pins and needles because somebody told you that if you have a CAC score over this, you're a walking heart attack. And your life is over right there. You'll never have peace again. I'm one of those people, unfortunately. I don't want to be a lab rat. I go for my physical once a year. I take in all the information I can, but mostly I go by the cues of how I feel. Now, if you have heart disease, there are symptoms that go with heart disease. On one hand, I say to myself, God, for all my life, when I count up the amount of that poison that I ate, I'd be surprised if I didn't have any plaque or calcium in my arteries because I didn't start eating this way when I was a kid. I just started it recently. And then I say to myself, but, I have talks with myself. I say, but, I'm 76 years old. I've never had a chest pain. I've never been short of breath. I've never had anything other than a normal heart function. My endurance is good. I have never had one symptom that's associated with heart disease. If all of a sudden I start getting short of breath and having chest pains, you better believe I'll go have every test known to man because I have a reason to. when I had my brain surgery, and I've told that story many times, but there's a lot of new people watching that don't know. 2 years ago, I was on keto at the time, and I was working out in the gym, and I overdid it. I overdid it tremendously. I must have been dehydrated, must have let my electrolyte levels fall, and then I ended up sitting in the sauna for a long time. And when I got up out of the sauna, I got really lightheaded. And when I got back to my locker, I passed out. And I hit my head on the bench in front of the locker, and next thing I knew, I woke up in the emergency room. About an hour later, my son was already there, and they told me that I had a subarachnoid hemorrhage, otherwise known as a brain bleed. And I hit my head in the back. The brain bleed was, I think it's this side. When I'm looking in the camera, I always look at the wrong side, but I think this is the side of my head where I have, yeah, this is the side of my head where you can see, I don't know if the light will show it off, but you can see that scar. And that scar is where 7 weeks later, I was rushed to the hospital with a subdural hematoma and had my skull opened up and had that thing removed. And I fully recovered from that and went back on keto because I had gained weight during the period of inactivity because waiting for my balance and a lot of other things to get back to normal after somebody cuts your head open. And these things can still happen. I don't care how healthy you are. You can still overdo it. You can still pass out, get dehydrated. You can still hit your head. You could be in a car accident. There's all kinds of things. I'm not crazy about doctors, but God, we need doctors. There are times when we got to have doctors to put the pieces back together after we break them up. So I'm on keto. I'm at the gym. I pass out. I have the brain surgery. I know I'm going somewhere with this, but and while I was in the hospital, because of my high cholesterol, in their infinite wisdom, the hospitalist, some woman Cuban doctor, and if you don't know what a hospitalist is, they're the ones that admit you through the emergency room, and they write up their initial assessment, and they note things on your chart, like what kind of food that you need to be fed. Well, because I had high cholesterol, as high as it is, I'm in line for a heart attack, for God's sakes, according to this woman. It's surprising that I'm actually still alive. So she notes in the chart that to put me on what they call a cardiac diet. A cardiac diet is a pretty much no fat, no salt, very little meat diet. Now, you take all the fat away, take all the meat away, take all the salt away, what have you got left? You got sugar. This diet they put me on was 95% sugar with a few powdered scrambled egg, dry powdered scrambled eggs. And I get done the surgery and they finally get me out of the intensive care unit into a room where I had to spend 2 days recuperating. And that's when they started bringing food to me. And the first meal they brought me was a breakfast. And this breakfast consisted of Special K, skim milk, orange juice, dry toast, and a pastry with a sugar topping. Now, what's wrong with that picture? I'm in a hospital, just had my head cut open, just had brain surgery. They're supposed to be trying to make me healthy. I told them I'm a fatty meat heavy keto at the time. She wouldn't do that. No, that's going to kill you. You have to eat it. They brought me a breakfast that was 95% sugar, with a few of these dry powdered eggs mixed in there, and it was horrible. not only horrible, but it was deadly. And this is what happens to you when you get it, when you let yourself be taken in by the system and letting the system administer your life for you. Unfortunately, this is the same thing that's happening in our military, in our hospitals, in our school cafeterias. All of this same propaganda, corruption, greed, money is controlling the health of the people that rely on them to feed them. And they wonder, they scratch their heads, why is everybody getting so fat? We don't understand it, they say. It's maddening. You want to scream at them. Wake up. At any rate, I kind of bribed the little girl who delivered the food, and she started bringing me bacon and eggs and hamburgers and things like that, you know. And I don't think they really even cared about me, but at least I got to eat while I was in there. And I ate okay. I ate okay because I had some kind-hearted little delivery girl that actually brought the food from the kitchen. And I got hamburgers. I just asked for hamburger patties. They brought me a bunch of them, and I got big plates full of bacon and some real eggs, not these powdered egg things, and butter, and everything was great. So I did okay. But they have no idea. They have no idea about what it takes for real health. And that's just a warning to any of you people that have high lipids and high cholesterol, is this is what you can expect if you ever do get admitted to a hospital. So if you have a loved one, make sure you have somebody as a proxy for you to make sure that they understand. And I had the hardest time getting out of that hospital too, because she thought I was going to have a heart attack when I walked out the front door. I'll outlive that woman by 20 years minimum. I guarantee you. I guarantee. What was I talking about when I started down this road? You know, I have a habit of doing that. I know something led me to the story of my fall and my brain surgery. And it'll come back to me. Let me get back to the chat a little bit, because you're probably tired of hearing my voice. We have 132 people watching me. Wow, wow, wow. Isn't that great? Hey, I see my old friend Mel, 400 AGL, one of my old drone buddies. My old drone buddies is in there. And what he did to get my attention in the chat, and that's another thing, keeping up with the chat on these live streams is difficult for me because I have to pay attention to everything, and I try to watch the chat. But if you want to get my attention in the chat, if you have a question, because that's why I'm here, to answer questions, make sure you put a bunch of dollar signs, Q's, not dollar signs. I'm sorry, I like dollars. Q's, QQQ, or question in caps, and maybe some asterisks or something, and I might see it. But one of the best ways to get my attention, other than a super chat, which are always nice, is to put my name in, at Old Guy Carnivore, and then it lights up red on my screen. And let me show you what I'm talking about here. If you see it in your own chats too. If somebody puts your name with an @ sign in front of it, it will come out white on a red background. And if you notice right here, if you see that red at Old Guy Carnivore, that's 400 AGL, that smells. There you go. And now see, the retired fat guy did it. My wife got me a DJI Mini 3 Pro. Hey, good for you, trying to learn how to register so I can fly. Well, the registering is easy. The registering is easy. But see how he did that? And that red thing just will attract my attention. So if you have something you want to ask me, do that. That's or anybody else in the chat. If you want to answer somebody else who put a comment, and if you're on a computer, there's a shortcut to do that. What you do is you type an @ sign in the chat line, and then the first 2 letters of the name, and it'll pop up any matches to that. And then you can just point to it and click, and it'll automatically fill in their whole name. And if you got somebody like Julia with a long name about this long, There you go, this long. It makes it real easy to do that. William Tanner did it. Bill is here. Hi, CHL and all. Yeah, good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, that helps me see these things too. Who else we got in the chat? Minky's talking about New York City rats. Pat Ramirez, I would damn sure lost weight if I was in the hospital you were in, because yeah, I couldn't eat that stuff. Honest to God, I couldn't eat that stuff. Joseph Story, that's what I surmised from him. You guys are talking to each other and I'm not involved in those conversations. Gracie Comfort says you were talking about the dudes who start with dude. Yeah, that's where we are. Thank you. Thank you. You try this someday and see if you can keep a train of thought with all this stuff around you going on. Anyway, these guys start their comments with dude. And I think most of these comments, they're from people that have really bought into the conventional wisdom, and while they may not be malicious, they basically assume that they're smarter than me and that the information that they have about anything I talk about is something I never heard of, and there's some danger that maybe I hadn't thought of. And normally I take these things seriously because that's how I learn things. I listen to everybody. But you start your comment with dude and we're finished. We're finished right there. I'm sorry. There were a couple of people that were obviously trolls, obviously vegans, that were just downright insulting and stupid, and they got removed. But other than that, I tried to answer most of them. And we have another red thing. First time I saw you was very early in my carnivore journey. Carnivore Nana. Yeah, thank you. I've been doing this now almost 5 months on YouTube. Time is flying. It's almost a year and a half on carnivore for me. I was going to look and see if I had anything else I didn't make many notes tonight. Oh, there was one question that I did get. I got a couple of questions multiple times. The first one I was talking about, why don't you get a CAC score? Let me address that first, just so you know how I think, because everybody has a right to do what they want and not. You can make suggestions. You can't tell people what they need to do. You can't walk up to somebody and say, what you need to learn is, or what you need to understand is, or the trouble with you is. You can't do that. That offends people. You can say, what I'd like you to understand, what I'd like you to learn. I don't think there's any kind way of telling somebody what the trouble with them is, but you can suggest to people something without jamming it down their throats from a superior, condescending type of attitude. And I respond very poorly to those things when somebody tells me what I need to do. My first answer is, I need to stop listening to you. That's what I need to do. And I get a lot of that. And I think some of these people actually mean well. They just missed out on Tact 101 somewhere in their education. If I start answering questions, I'm going to lose my train of thought. So somebody remember where I was. I was talking about some of these comments I got. And I was talking about the CAC score. Well, let me finish this and I'll get back to the questions. Now that I've told you the secret, my chat is lighting up red here. Okay, well, that's probably good. When I was in the hospital, this is why I got to the hospital part of the story. Everything's connected. Because I had high cholesterol, they ran me through a complete heart workup. And I mean, that was probably smart before you're going to cut somebody's head open and do brain surgery. The good news is they really didn't cut into my brain. They just removed this humongous blood clot that was almost 3/4 of an inch thick that was pressing on my brain and causing me all kinds of stroke-like symptoms. Although I'd never had a stroke. So I had MRIs. I had EEGs where I had 70 wires coming out of my head. I had God knows how many CT scans, X-rays. I had a CT scan twice a day while I was in there for this surgery. CT scan of the head. I'm surprised my head isn't glowing in the dark. And one of the things they did in checking was they did a coronary ultrasound. An ultrasound of the heart and all the arteries, and an ultrasound of my carotids on both sides in my neck, looking for any obstructions. And the calcium plaque shows up in these ultrasounds. You don't gotta have a CT scan. You can see that stuff lighten up on an ultrasound. And they did 2 years ago. I had a very thorough ultrasound of all my heart, my coronary arteries, my carotid arteries, and they, in the report, I had no calcium, no buildup. And that was only 2 years ago. And since that time, I have been really behaving myself in what I eat. And every symptom that I had and all the pain and disorders and kidney stones and rheumatoid arthritis and eczema and high blood pressure and everything that I have completely resolved itself. So you get to a point where, and this is my thinking, probably have a little calcium somewhere in my body, but the whole purpose of calcium is basically, it's like repaving over a hole in the road. It's designed to fix something. It in itself is not the problem. It's only if you get so much of it that it builds up and starts occluding the artery that it becomes a problem. So just having some calcium is not a problem, and in many cases it's stabilizing and beneficial, which is why they have a score. And a lower calcium score means you have some, but it's not causing any problems. And when it would start to cause problems, you'd have symptoms. So 2 years ago, I pretty much got a clean cardiac bill of health. Even with the high cholesterol that I've had as long back as I can remember. I remember 30 some years ago, I actually listened to one of my doctors and took a statin. Unfortunately, I had side effects from it, muscle pain, and I stopped. It wasn't unfortunately, it was fortunately. And I've had this high cholesterol, and I've been hearing this crap all my life, everywhere, every doctor, every exam I ever had this, oh man, your cholesterol's going to kill you. Well, here I am, 77 years old. Most of those people 76 years old, most of those people that told me that I was going to die from this are already dead. And I'm still here. So, having gotten this clean bill of health 2 years ago, not having any reason to believe that I have any coronary artery disease or any plaque buildup of any kind, eating the healthiest diet that I have found in an entire lifetime, which I waited till I was 75 years old to find. Seeing every health thing just get better. Getting my weight down to 138 pounds. Putting on muscle, having stamina, having clarity of thought that I haven't had. I can't remember when my head worked as good as it works now. So when somebody says, you need to get a coronary artery calcium score, I get insulted. I say, don't you think, you're giving me credit for no intelligence and no observational abilities? Come on. And I don't want to start a dialogue with these people because you cannot win a dialogue with somebody whose mind is already made up. And it's obvious to me that they could no more convince me into doing something that I don't think I need than I could ever convince them. It's fruitless to debate these people, even if it's a civil debate. And I got 10 or 20 of those comments today. I need to get a car. Well, I'm not a lab rat. I mean, if you guys want to know what my calcium score is, just so you got another clue whether I know what I'm talking about, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't care what it is. I'll get one when there's something wrong with me or I suspect something wrong with me, and that becomes a necessary diagnostic tool. And if that ever happens, I'm not stopping with a coronary artery calcium. I'm getting a CT angiogram, which is a much more expensive test that not only shows you calcium plaque, but shows you soft plaque too. This is the type of imaging that Dave Feldman and Nick Norwitz are using in their lean mass hyperresponder study. So that's why, and just to have it on the record, that's why I personally don't want a coronary. I don't live by the numbers. You've heard me say this so many times. Our metabolism, our biology is so complex, makes decisions and adjustments every millisecond of every day in thousands of metabolic pathways and chemical reactions inside our body. It cannot be monitored by our conscious mind. We cannot react or do anything that's going to change something fast enough to make any difference. We can make changes in our behavior in broad strokes and wait a while and see what happens. This is why I say, don't chase ketones. Don't chase ketones. It's a useless effort. These people are, and there's YouTube influencers and doctors out there. That's their big thing, measuring their blood sugar, wearing CGMs, constant glucose monitors, measuring their ketones, trying to take exogenous ketones to get their ketones up. Don't you think your biology is smart enough? You got one thing you need to think about. Feed it right. That's where you have to figure it out. Not how to chemically manage it. That's why the doctors and the drug companies have us so screwed up. You have to figure out how to give it proper nutrition so it can do the job that it's programmed to do. And if you get on the right diet and you manage to do a little experimenting and get your ratios of fat to protein right, and you can tell if you're doing it right. You can tell you'll feel great. How many of you guys out there are telling me in comments on all my videos how great you're feeling and how it's like being reborn. It's like being young again. That's your indication that you're doing it right. And if not, something isn't working right, then adjust your diet. Don't try to find some outside magic pill that somebody's trying to sell you and tell you you can't live without it. All this pill stuff is only the last 100 years. We developed over periods of time that make that 100 years seem like half a second. Trust your ancestral biology. Feed it right, and stop worrying about the minute-by-minute fluctuations of your blood sugar, whether you have ketones or not. That stuff is right where it's supposed to be if you leave it alone and stop trying to monkey with it and manipulate it by throwing chemicals into the mix that don't belong there. And that's the definition of what health is. Health is not something being kept alive with machines and pills. Health is being totally independent and letting your body do what it's supposed to. Just feed it right. I think, and I mean I think 99%, that we're onto it here. We have finally learned enough about the science of this to justify this all meat, all animal product diet, both from a biochemical standpoint and also from a historical standpoint and an ancestral standpoint. That's what worked. That's what's worked for me. I add electrolytes only because I know that the amount of these chemicals that are in the food these days aren't what they were 1,000 years ago because of what we've done to the soil where we grow these crops that the animals eat. So when we eat the animals, they don't have the magnesium and potassium in the levels we might need and the salts. So I supplement a little bit with that. If you don't get out in the sun enough, you may be a little short on vitamin D. In fact, she didn't test for my vitamin D levels, so I'm going to ask her next Thursday to run that test. And I'll run right from my physical over to the lab, and in a day or two, I'll have the numbers. I can get them on my computer. This is how we should live. Jay Woodchuck, thank you. Thank you. Carnivore and beer here. Good for you, man. Live it up. You also know that I'm not a militant as far as carnivore goes. I couldn't take when people told me that I seasoned one of my carbon steel pans with grapeseed oil and that was going to hurt me. I'm sorry. We've all eaten so much crap in our lives. If we can get to 95%, 98%, and as long as we're not eating things that trigger our cravings, we're going to be just fine. And if I joke, I say, if I only live to 125 instead of 126, that'd be good enough for me. That's why I still drink coffee, even if it's cold. I still smoke my cigars. And I'm doing great. In case you guys can't tell. I'm loving this. I'm just loving it. So don't try to micromanage these things. And what happens to you is this. You get so busy worrying and checking and testing that your whole life, you start to get consumed with keeping yourself alive instead of actually living. That's not a life. That's what people who are diabetics, that people who are in iron lungs, people that are on kidney dialysis, that's their life. They're tied to a machine. They're always measuring something. They're always taking something and injecting something because this machinery that's so smart and knows how to do it by itself got poisoned because some stupid guy back in the 50s and 60s decided that cholesterol causes heart attacks. And it's taken this long for us to even begin to prove that was folly. And that just goes to show you give enough politicians enough stupidity, and they can ruin the world. They do it every day. I see it every morning on the news. Have you noticed how easily I kind of go into a rant about that stuff? I try not to. But you can't help but get frustrated at the sheer stupidity. I used to have to explain to people the difference between ignorance and stupidity. And there's a distinct difference. Ignorance is just something you haven't learned yet. The smartest man in the world can be ignorant. I'm ignorant on God knows how many different subjects because I haven't been interested enough to try to learn something about them. Stupidity, on the other hand, is where your elevator doesn't quite go to the top floor. You just don't have you haven't developed the brain power. That kind of thing is measured you don't measure ignorance by an IQ test. You measure stupidity. And I always used to give people credit for just being ignorant because that's much kinder. But I can't do that anymore. When I look around now, what I see is just sheer abject stupidity. And I think it's brain damage. I think it's malnourishment. I think that the human race is getting dumber. I think that we are descending towards this movie called Idiocracy. If you've not seen it, you need to see it. It's back in the 90s when Mike Judd made it. It was, I think, made as a comedy. Today, if you watch it, you'll see one of the most prophetic pictures of what our future might look like. And it's scary. Yeah. So don't micromanage things. And a lot of the comments that I got today were kind of chastising me for not getting these tests and not worrying about this and not worrying about that. And I had one guy tell me, my sodium was 1 point lower than the lowest part of the range. And I got a lecture about how dangerous that is for your sodium to be 135 instead of 136. Well, it just so happens that I didn't drink a whole lot before I got my blood tests. In fact, it was all I could do to produce the urine for the urinalysis. And the reason I didn't drink a lot was I usually have a couple cups of coffee in the morning. But you don't want to drink coffee before you have a blood test. It'll make your triglycerides go up. You want to fast for 12 to 14 hours. If you fast for 18 hours, that too will screw up your results. That's how fickle these numbers are. And that's why it's not an absolute thing. You could take the same blood test 1 hour apart and get wildly different numbers, especially cholesterol tests. These things in our body, our sugar levels, our electrolyte levels, they're changing constantly. They're being regulated constantly, thousands of times a second sometimes. And this guy gave me a whole lecture on I need to worry about it. Well, think about this. Here I am. I've got it down to almost a science now. I eat 2 meals a day. Somebody asked me a little earlier in the chat how many meals I eat a day. I eat 2. I have, even though I don't recommend it for the first 30 days of starting carnivore, once you get past the 30 days, yeah, intermittent fasting is a great idea. It's really good for your body. It gives your whole digestive system a chance to relax and recycle, get back to the starting point, reboot itself. I have at most a 6-hour eating window, usually closer to 4 or 5. I eat my first meal between 11 and noon, and my second between 3 and 4. Generally, between 11 and noon, I eat bacon and eggs. I eat about a half a pound of this thick rice bacon and 5 or 6 eggs made into an omelet. You guys will always find me making videos while I'm cooking my bacon and eggs. And I do that just about every day, if not every day. And I usually eat beef for dinner with an occasional chicken wings or something, or shrimp or fish. But mostly I alternate with a steak one day and 80-20 hamburger the next day. So if you ask me what I would be happy living on, if I just had nothing but bacon, eggs, and hamburger, I'd be perfectly content in the food department. A lot of carnivores will tell you that that's what happened to them after they've been on it for a while. Food stopped being entertainment. It stopped being a look forward to source of pleasure. It became sustenance. Became like taking your car to the gas station, giving it some fuel. There was no other emotions attached to it. Now, yes, the food tastes good. The food tastes great. And it's supposed to. Taste is used by the human body for any number of reasons. The most important reason is it tells us whether what we're eating is okay or poison. And the reason that we have this library in our brain of different tastes and an association with those different tastes that came from learning over the generations that if I eat this, I get sick, then our brain is going to interpret that particular compound with a bitter, unpleasant taste. If it's something that nourished us our brains over the generations, generation after generation, learned that if it tastes good, chances are it's good for you. That whole taste thing got tied in to the brain chemistry, to the endorphin release, to the dopamine and the serotonin, as a way to encourage the eating more of the stuff that tasted good. And back in those days, hundreds of thousands of years ago, when early humans roamed, there wasn't much that tasted good to be had. you know, the meat tasted good. Occasionally, once a year for a few weeks, some sweet things tasted good, like berries, but they were nothing like what we have today in the fruit department of the grocery store. So while we were encouraged to eat these things that tasted good, and we were discouraged from eating things that tasted bitter and yucky, there wasn't a big wide selection. It was either meat or some scrubby vegetables and fruits. And that's when all the different pathways developed to metabolize either the sugars or the fats. And the sugars turned into survival food because they weren't as nutritious. They did have the toxins and poisons in them, and they would do in a pinch to keep the animal alive until the meat came back along. And it's in these ancient instinctual behaviors that all of our modern problems come from. Because the scientists have learned how to hijack the taste buds, pretty much, and the mouth feel and other things that go into the enjoyment of eating a great steak, and mimic it with chemicals and sugar. And sugar we were always naturally addicted to because it was the survival food. It was what we ate in desperation when there was no meat. And I've said this many times, and I keep saying it again. I know there's a lot of new people watching, but the reason we can't stop eating sugar, and it's so easy to stop eating a fatty meat, it is, think about it. If I gave you 5 pounds of steak, you'd get through a pound and a half, and you'd push the fork away and say, I can't eat another bite. If I eat another bite, I'm going to be sick. This doesn't even taste good to me anymore. If I gave you a 5-pound plate of spaghetti and meatballs, you could probably figure out a way to cram all that stuff in, even though you couldn't move. Your hunger never gets satisfied by the sugar, but it does by the fat. And the reason for this was, when you found survival food back in the day when there was no food to be had, you had to be encouraged somehow to eat as much of it as you could. Some of that sugar or berries that you ate would be turned into fat, body fat, which helps you survive. And over the generations and generations, this instinct and the chemistry changed enough so that when the sugar was eaten, the satiety pathways were basically turned off. Now, at the time, that was the right thing to do. It enhanced survival. So that programming was passed on to the next generation through natural selection. Excuse me a second, getting a little dry. Let me take a sip of my fabulously sophisticated Pellegrino Italian bubbly water. It's basically seltzer water from Italy. Everything we do, every behavior we have comes to us as a learned survival behavior from ancient generations. So it was easy for scientists to hijack this and say, we can addict these people to this because 100,000 years ago, they basically were addicted to sugar. We can mimic that. We're smart enough to do that. And that's what they did. And that's why they keep coming up with all these new things, these new foods containing seed oils, grains, and sugars, and we get addicted to them. And we're in the mess we're in now. And to put icing on the cake, they start a propaganda campaign to make us believe that eating red meat is going to kill us and ruin the planet Earth in the process. And they get all their lackeys who they support with their money for commercials in the media. You notice if you watch the media now, it's all commercials about drug companies and food. Well, they're being supported. They're going to toe the company line and put out the message and squash the message that, yeah, eating meat is good for you. So we've got everything working against us now. We've got this is worse than Soviet Russia. We've got the entire industrial complex propaganda machine working against us who just want to eat meat because it's the only real food that our species is supposed to eat. And it's an uphill battle. But make no mistake, none of this stuff just happened by accident. There is a real, explainable, understandable series of events over hundreds of thousands and back millions of years that explains the why. And that's what I took the time and energy and brain power, I guess, to figure all that out. And that's why this makes so much sense to me. And nobody can shoot any holes in it. And yet I still have an open mind. If somebody comes to me tomorrow and said, hey, Mitch, you missed this, and shows me some irrefutable, logical, common sense reasons why I shouldn't be eating meat, and it makes sense to me, and there's an alternative that I think would make me healthier, I wouldn't be a carnivore tomorrow. I haven't found anybody in my entire life that's been able to shake me off of my own beliefs and path yet, because I don't get on the path easily. I don't just buy into every harebrained thing that comes along. Anyway, I was talking about why I didn't want to get a CAC score, and away we went again. I hope these little detours that I take in my conversation, because I have no script on these live streams. I have no script. I have 76 years worth of shit that I've absorbed that just comes out. I'm sorry. Whoa. Thank you. Deezed, D-E-E-Z-E-D. Thanks, Mitch, for your great videos, especially those addressing carb addiction. Love your wisdom as well. Thank you so much, my friend, and thank you for that. Thank you for that super chat. Let me show it to everybody. Look at that. There you go. I sometimes am remiss from showing these things, and it doesn't mean I don't appreciate them. It means that I'm just in the middle of something. I also got the one earlier from Jay Woodchuck, and let me find that one and show it as well. There you go. And thank you, sir. Thank you. Even though you're drinking beer, that's okay. Doing great. Good for you. Thanks, man. Thank you very much. Those things are always appreciated. I didn't mention my private community yet because that sounds too much like a commercial, and I don't want to become too commercial, but we do have a private group, and it's growing. It's got this many members so far, and it's a lot of fun. We have I have a live stream, which is a private live stream every Thursday night at 7. Goes on for about an hour and a half, like this. But people come in with me in a window, and anybody who's a member of the community, if they want to join in, can join in, and we talk and have conversations, and we talk about things that maybe we don't want to talk about in public, where there may be hundreds of people watching. I know the average one of my live streams, by the time it finishes its run, between the being live and the replays, usually gets between 1,500 and 2,000 views. The private live stream only get viewed by people who are members. So, if you join, all of the old private live streams will show up. They'll be available to you, and you can come and be on the new ones. And occasionally when I get a video done the day before I release it to the public, I'll release it to the private community. You join the private community for the main reason that, not for the perks, not for any of this stuff. It's fun. but it's $3.99 a month, like most of these guys. And it helps support some of the work that I do and the expenses incurred in doing all this. So it exists. There's a link on every video that says join. I'm on my website at oldguycarnivore.com. You can join there. Also on that website is a page with Amazon links to all the stuff that I use in my videos that everybody asks me, where'd you get this? Where'd you get that? Well, you can go there and find the links. That's an Amazon affiliate account. So that's the end of my commercial. Thank you very much. Back to your regularly scheduled performance. Let's see, how do I get rid of this? There we go. Okay, what time is it? 9:15. Let me check the chat again and see what's going on here. Somebody said good night to Lori. Carnivore cheer. Bear with me while I peruse the chat, see what you guys are talking about. I try to read the entire chat at one point. Sometimes it's just when I'm rewatching the stream, the chat plays too, so I can see it. You're talking about stuff that you like to eat. That's great. That's great. I enjoy seeing everybody chatting it up. That's what it's for. I'm looking for questions I might have missed. I don't see a lot of big Q's. Nope. Sorry if I missed anything. Try it again. Tokyo Wang says, have you tried eating higher fat? So I guess somebody's talking about constipation or something like that. Florida hypercarnivores is defined as 70% meat. Okay, good. You guys are helping each other out, and that's great. Yeah, I was talking about why I don't want to get a CAC score. There was one other thing there was another thing that a lot of people asked me in the chat today that I wanted to talk about. Let me think about that for a second. Chat amongst yourselves. Oh, why don't I have any ketones in my urine? Now, I know that's a burning question that's on everybody's mind. Several of us are hearing the squeak, squeak, squeak. Is that my ceiling fan, maybe? I don't hear it here. Let me go and slow my fan down. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Maybe it's my heart beating. Tell me if it goes away, okay? Because I don't know what it could be. I don't hear it, and I'll make a point when I watch the replay of this later to see if I can't hear it. I don't hear any squeaks, ET says. All gone. Okay, it was a stupid fan. All right. See how easy it is to solve a problem? I just turned it down a little bit. That fan is not balanced perfectly, unfortunately. Why don't I have ketones in my urine? Well, we talked about this a little earlier. I don't care what my ketones are. I obviously am making ketones. It would be, since I'm not running on sugar, and my blood sugar isn't high enough to think that my liver's turning all of my protein into glucose through gluconeogenesis. That would be ridiculous. I know, because I never get hungry, because I have the energy, because I have the clarity of thought that ketones bring to your mind. I know that I'm burning fat. I know I'm living on fat. I eat no sugar. I can't make enough sugar. I can't make that much sugar. I am a fat burner. It would be impossible for me not to be burning fat. And I also know how the metabolic pathways of lipolysis works, and I know how we metabolize fat in our cells and mitochondria, and how cellular respiration can work either on sugar or it can work on fat. We're hybrids. We are hybrids, like a Prius. I thought about making a video comparing the human body to a Prius. Sometimes a Prius runs on electricity, and sometimes it runs on gas. So you may ask yourself, how does the Prius know? How does it know when to run on electricity, when to run on gas, and when to run on both? Because a Prius can run on both the electric and gas at the same time. I know I had a Prius a long time ago. Well, we're not as talented as a Prius. We can't run on sugar and fat in any given cell because we have something, and you may have heard this term, especially if you watch Barkay, we have something called the Randall cycle. And energy goes into a cell either in the form of sugar, glucose, or fat. And through different pathways, it gets turned into acetyl-CoA, which is kind of an intermediate form. But they both get turned into that. And that is what goes into the mitochondria that's eventually turned into energy by the mitochondria through the electron transport chain, oxidative phosphorylation, and it comes out ATP. And ATP is kind of like the currency, the energy currency of the cell, and it powers everything. It powers those little molecular motors that are walking along microtubules, making things move, making your muscles move. It powers all those things, and it can come from either fat or sugar. So there's something that controls whether you're burning sugar or fat, and it primarily initially gets its cues from which fuel is more available. And for most of us, that answer is automatic. It's sugar. So the fat pathways sit there and don't do much for our whole lives, and the sugar pathways, they work like crazy. Paul Saladino runs on both sugar and fat at the same. Well, yeah, Tokyo, you can eat both kinds of foods, but in each cell, it's going to allow you to run on either sugar or fat. And that's at a cellular level. So to get into that kind of chemistry would be, that's a college course that I'm not qualified to teach, but I understand the principles. See, that's what happens to me. That's what happens to me. I get going on a train of thought. That's how I can make a video. That's why I can start a topic, talk for 20 minutes without interruption, never say, or anything like that. But if somebody were to interrupt me, I'd be gone. Honest to God, it's getting late. I'm tired. I don't even remember how we started down this road, let alone where we got on. But it'll come to me. It'll come to me again. Jay Woodchuck has given me another $2. Thank you. And he said, the biggest issue here in Canada is the cost. Yeah. In that respect, we're fortunate here in the States. There's so many places in the world where this is just very expensive and hard to do. And we all do the best we can. And I don't know if it's getting any easier. I do see that meat sales seem to be increasing. I see it in the grocery stores. And I think that that's the thing that's going to, the only thing that's going to further our cause of more and more meat being available. And that is commerce. Money. That's what makes the world go round. Demand. You increase the demand for meat, somebody will figure out how to sell it to you. Believe me, I said that in a video once. I said if more and more people keep buying meat, you'll see more and more meat in the stores. If eventually that means that meat is in a bigger demand than the sugary shit, then eventually they may move the meat department from the back of the Sam's Club to the front of the Sam's Club, where you see it right off the bat. I don't know, but I do know that when there's a demand for this stuff, somehow they manage to fill it. We'll see. We'll see. I doubt, even if I live another 40 years, I doubt that I'll be around to see the entire picture change to where everybody's got common sense and everybody knows that fruits and vegetables and grains are bad for you and that meat and animal products are the things to eat. I don't think I'll ever see it. Who knows? Maybe these scientists will eventually come up with some ultra processed substitute for meat that actually does the trick. I don't see with our current technology how, but who knows the future. You take a piece of steak, there's compounds in there we haven't even identified yet. Some of those compounds may be necessary for good health, and we don't even know what they are. CB Karnak says, as Dr. Kenberry says, processed meat is 40 times more healthy than processed vegetables. Yeah, that's one of the things about about Ken, that he's got a lot of wisdom, and he's got a lot of common sense too. And one of the things he always says that I parrot a lot, and that is that if you don't have a lot of money and all you can afford is Spam and hot dogs, then eat the Spam and hot dogs. You'll be many times better off than eating all that crap that comes in a box that they make. Now, fortunately, most of us can afford to eat a good animal-based diet. I spend less money on food now than I used to. We forget about the fact that every time the pizza delivery guy came, it was 20 or 30 bucks for a pizza and some sugary shit you dipped into more sugary shit. We forget about the fact that during the course of the day, we'd stop at a 7-Eleven, grab ourselves a $2 bottle of Coke, $5 bottle of some munchy thing. And maybe if we wanted to really think we're eating healthy, we grab one of those power bars, those protein bars, which are $3 or $4. And you'd spend $10, $12. We go to a movie. You spend $50 on popcorn and sodas for your family. That's food. People, when they, it goes way past what you spend at the supermarket. Well, we don't buy any of that stuff anymore. I went to the supermarket this morning, went to Sam's Club. I spent $60 on food. I bought 10 pounds, a 10-pound roll of 80/20 ground chuck. I bought 4 pounds of Wright's extra thick bacon, and I bought 3 dozen eggs for $60. I could eat for a week on that, just that food. I got enough bacon and eggs today to have 10 days worth of breakfast. I got enough hamburger today to have a pound of that every day for 10 days. I could, if I didn't eat anything else, I could eat for 10 days for $60. That's $6 a day. You can't buy a lot of crap for that. My average is $10, $12 a day on the average, maybe 14, because I have a steak every other day. And when I eat a steak, it's not just any old steak. It's 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches thick, either New York strip or a prime rib. Oh man, Chris Lazat says that Wright's bacon is the bomb. I'm telling you what, I call that meat candy. It is so good. And I saw a recipe, and my daughter, I'm going to go see her next week over in Tampa, and she just started her carnivore diet. And Laura Spath, who is a YouTube person who has a big following, and she put out a recipe that just looked fabulous, and it was bacon cheeseburger meatballs. They were made with bacon, sharp cheddar, and hamburger into meatballs with pork rind crumbs and egg, like you bake a meatloaf, but made it into meatballs and cooked them in the oven. And if you like seasoning, you can she put a little garlic powder and onion powder, salt, of course. And they just looked, God, they looked good. And there's something that those kind of things, there's pretty much no end to that. Now, that's a recipe kind of like I'd put out there, but she already did. I'm not going to plagiarize her thing. But I love bacon. I eat bacon. I eat it every day. I eat it every day in one form or another. And I take my electrolytes. I mix up a big thing of that electrolyte mix that I make myself and sip on it all day long. And I don't eat, other than that, I don't eat anything else. I honestly have gotten to the point where I don't want anything else. And all I see when I see all this stuff, I look at people eating all this crap, and I just see poison. I just, that's probably because of my disgust for what they've done to us. And I tell people, you have to, sometimes it helps to just get pissed off, to get angry. Get angry at what these people have done to us in the name of profit. We're being exploited, misled, made sick, and killed. So that basically as fodder for their addictive products. They know that we will get addicted to these things and we can't stop buying them after that. They actually have a business model. It's called the addictive model. The whole cigarette industry was built on that. The coffee industry is built on that. Wow. I see. Is it Deezed? $10. Thank you. Thank you. Mitch, have you made the salmon cakes again since your video? Is that something you would eat regularly? I did, man. Or woman. I don't know what you are. Person. Yes, I did. I made them about a week ago. And I about once a week, lately, I seem to be doing something from one of those recipes. And it's a nice little break. Last night, instead of having beef or steak for dinner, I made the chicken wings with the pork rind coating on it in the air fryer. And I love those. And that was plenty. I had 6 whole wings and cut them up. So I had 12 pieces of wings, half flats and half drums. I didn't shake them in the bag, though. What happened when I was using this bag is I discovered that the egg on would clump up all the pork rinds. So I went back to the old way, and it actually worked better. So here's Mitch's cooking tip of the night. Anyway, thank you for this. Thank you for the super chat, my friend. I really appreciate that. I took and just put an egg in a bowl and just beat it up, put some Redmond's real salt in it, and I just took a plate and sprinkled the pork rinds on the crumbs on the plate and just shook it a little, and they kind of flattened out. Then I just took each wing and just put it into the egg, and then took it over to the pork rind plate and just patted it on one side. Then I found an area with dry pork rinds and did it in the other thing. And I think I actually may have used less pork rind crumbs doing it that way. And they did come out much better. They came out with a little bit thicker, more even coating. So I made my fried shrimp again since then. I make all of those recipes that I put out there. They become a regular part, maybe once a month. But I occasionally, maybe once a month, I'll cook up some, a chuck steak or two and shred it up, put it in the fridge, and I'll eat that for a while. Hamburger and steak, though, is my mainstay. Fish, once a week. Once a week, I'll make an omelet with sardines, or I'll have salmon or something like that. I don't need the variety. That's the miracle part of this thing. I don't miss all that stuff. And this is so simple. We used to waste so much food, says Wendy, especially produce. Yeah, we don't throw anything away. I go a whole week and I have one kitchen size trash bag. And it takes me a week to fill it up. I have a big trash can outside. I take it out to the curb. I get 2 pickups a week, but one of them, it's still empty because I haven't filled up my trash bag. I look at my neighbors. They got 4 trash cans out there. Pizza boxes overflowing. The lids aren't even closed on them. The amount of trash and garbage and waste that they generate is amazing. This is a very, very easy and simple. And if you can live with it, it's the best way to eat. The problem is, if you are addicted to that other stuff, you can't live with this. So you got to go through that 30-day detox to get started, to get that sugar out of your system, get your fat pathways fired up again. And do it for long enough where your whole way of thinking changes about food. You do, absolutely. And I'm not the only one saying this. There's an awful lot of people out there who talk about this food freedom, this freedom from the pull and the cravings and the agony of not being able to stuff your face full of all this addictive stuff. This addiction is the real problem for most people. Everybody says they can give it up, and I harp on this addiction until I'm blue in the face. But I'm still convinced, the more I look around, the more I see it. Of all the people that have told me, oh, I'm starting carnivore tomorrow, man, I can do it, I'm strong, blah, blah, blah. 3 days later, what happened? Well, I decided not to. I just thought I'd enjoy this other stuff. What a cop-out. But that's what your brain does to you when you're addicted. Makes up some of the lamest excuses. It might mean something to another addict, but they don't mean something to somebody who understands how that all works. It doesn't fly with me. Anyway, I'm rambling here, guys, and we've been at this for well over an hour and a half. I still got 128 people, 131 people watching me. Wow. Well, I so appreciate you guys. I don't know if this rambling format that I do, I'm hoping it's entertaining, as opposed to trying to be scripted, to just talk off the top of my head, because that's how I make videos. I picture you all out there. I feel like I'm having a party with my friends as opposed to trying to put on a show. This really isn't a show. Really isn't a show. It's just me talking to my buddies. So thanks so much. I'm gonna end it here tonight. We do have tomorrow night. Let me remind you again. I'm going to be on with the Everyday Carnivore, and I'll have a link to it. There's a way I don't do much of this stuff. I joked the last time about they don't let me out very often, and they make me wear a helmet. But they're letting me out tomorrow night. I'm going to go visit with Jeff, the Everyday Carnivore, and I've never met the guy or talked to him yet. But it's always interesting to stretch out a little bit. So I'm going to do that. I'll maybe see some of you there tomorrow night. I'll see the private community members on Thursday evening, and you probably expect a video out of me, maybe 1 or 2 more this week, maybe one over the weekend. But that video that I put out today, I've had, I don't know, 400 or 500 comments on that thing. I spent my whole day answering comments on that video and reading advice from people who think I'm stupid. That's okay. They don't know me. Maybe I am. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up my exit music. I love it. Oh, this is too good. Chris Lazat, my man. Thank you, sir. What'd you say? Super sticker. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. That's a good note. That's a good note to end on. God, I could sit. I mean, I've heard this song 1,000 times. I could just keep listening to it. So I'm gonna call it a night. I'm gonna go sit down and I'm gonna watch this thing from the beginning. Give myself a grade. Think about ideas of some new stuff I can tell you. Take the rest of the night off, my friends, and eat meat.